There have been multiple times where I would play a character only for myself to receive congratulations on being in the VShojo lore video. And I'm like, when? Hey kittens. My name is Hiiragi Yuu, and I am your host for tonight. Without further ado, this is Game8 Connect. My name is Hiiragi Yuu. I am a host VTuber. I stream on Twitch primarily. I'm a variety streamer. I do game streams, ASMR streams. I also do just chatting streams. And I also run a channel on YouTube where I post most of my music content as well. I do covers and songs. I will burn my dread. Sometimes some voice acting situation voices as well. I started VTubing around the time Hololive put out their auditions for the V-Singer. I received a ton of messages from people that I knew going like, hey, this sounds like something that you would be really good at. Did you want to try putting in a application for it? Being me at the time, I had no idea what a VTuber was. I did not watch any VTubers. I didn't watch a lot of streamers in general. And so I did not feel right putting in an application without fully understanding what I was applying for, what the position requires, and what I would be doing in that position. And so in researching for that application, I ended up really liking Hosho Marin.
I'm Honey!
From the third wave of Hololive. Hosho Marin in particular was really inspirational because I always feel like I'm not adequate of an entertainer because I feel like I wasn't young or hip or cool enough to hang with the best of them. And she famously makes a lot of really retro references. She's into a lot of old anime, a lot of very vintage anime music and video games, and she makes references that very obviously date her as a person close to my age range. And so having watched her content, I'm like, oh, you know what? There is a space in the entertainment industry for people like us who may not feel like we're always in the know about what is trendy, but we still are able to attract a certain audience who relate. It's less of a goal that I'm pursuing nowadays, and that's purely because I feel like I have a lot to learn as an indie still before I feel like I'm good enough to apply for and thrive in an agency. When I looked into the application, looked into what was involved into being a VTuber, I realized that I was severely lacking in the skills that would make me a good candidate. But part of the reason why I decided to go to start VTubing as an indie is because I felt like I should be building up all of these skills. VTubing has such a wide breadth in terms of the skills that you can use. I graduated with a design major, and so I do a lot of interface, user experience, and graphic design. And I do that on a freelance level, and it's really incredible how much of that I've been able to apply in VTubing. VTubing is very much kind of like a self-run business where you are in charge of every facet of it, and you push all of your skills to the max, to the limit, in order to really make yourself shine. And in the places where you might be a little lacking, then you would want to seek out people to assist you in building that brand. And so I realized that was kind of what VTubing was about. On a personal level, I didn't feel adequate applying to an agency. On a creative level, I found it to be really enriching and really fulfilling, and I wanted to get to sort of dip my toes into it. Oh, what a great question. I love this one. My inspiration for becoming a host VTuber is I really enjoyed the concept of a sort of a host club where you enter a space for the express purpose of somebody who is catering directly to you, who wants to make you forget all of the pressure and the stress of regular day-to-day life, someone who is there to make sure you have a good time when you enter this space. And I found a lot of parallels between that idea and VTubing and streaming in general. A lot of people drop into streams because they are tired after a long day. They would just like to forget about everything that happened. They would like to kick back, relax, and be entertained. And I felt like that parallel really made it really easy for me to fit into this sort of host and host club theme. I think that host club culture is not very common outside of Japan. And so a lot of people don't really know, either don't know what a host club is or don't quite know what host clubs are like in real life. And unfortunately, they're very different in real life. The truth of the matter is host clubs can be quite predatory, can be very expensive, can rack up very, very expensive bills just to prey on people who might be lonely.
Hey you, what's up, man? Give me money, please.
And so I wanted to present this kind of idealized fantasy host club where you do not need to spend a dime, but you can still enter and you can still have a good time and you will always, always feel welcome. Yes, exactly. I get that so very often, and oddly enough, it has really played into my favor. Oran High School Host Club kind of simulates the idea of a host club, but within the safe confines of academia, of being a school club. And so everything that they present in that anime is mostly low stakes and very wholesome, and so it's really played into my favor. I think if everyone sort of knew about host clubs and the way that they are usually, I don't think they would have such a great impression of the Starlight Host Club upon first meeting. It is not as difficult as people may think. One of the most important things about being a content creator who presents and offers their own presence for people to enjoy is that genuity is very, very important. Whether or not you're having a good time, whether or not you're reacting in a genuine manner to the things that you are doing. In my opinion, I think it is a really important part of streaming and content creation. And so how I choose to do things is I try to pinpoint what exactly I'm in the mood for and what exactly I have the energy for. There are days where I feel like I have the energy to do a special event stream where I organize all kinds of submissions from my viewers. There are days where I feel like I have the energy for a collaboration and I can make great banter and conversation. There are days where I feel like because of other things that have gone on in my life, I simply do not have the energy level to tackle something as ambitious as that. Then I will resort to something more comfortable, perhaps a game we've already been playing, perhaps a ASMR stream that is lower energy and lets all of us relax together. It all boils down to what I will enjoy and or what I will be able to make the best banter with. Streaming is something that I never got into until I started VTubing just about 2 years ago, and so it's all very new to me. I'm still sort of discovering things as I go, but it's so shocking to me how cut and dry streaming can be, because people can sense how you're feeling and people can sense if you're uncomfortable, if you're tired, if you're forcing yourself to do something, and that kind of environment is never a good place for your audience to be. And so taking care of yourself as a person, making sure that you are genuinely interested in the things that you're doing and you're not forcing yourself to do anything you're not engaged or inspired by is actually really important to a content creator. Ooh, I personally really favor narrative-heavy games. I am a little bit of a crybaby. And my community will attest to this.
Little baby, man.
I promise I don't purposefully pick these out, but I tend to play a lot of games that are tearjerkers simply because I gravitate towards such story-heavy games. In particular, I really love playing games like visual novels or games with a lot of dialogue. I have a lot of experience in voice acting, and so what I really love to do is I love to try to voice as many characters as I can. Maido, Chiri-chan yade. To give a more engaging and more lively experience of the games. Even if my audience members have already played this game, it might be interesting for them to hear my take on a certain character's voice, or just hear everything voiced as if it had a full cast of voice actors. Oh my goodness, that is such a great question. Admittedly, I have some problems with that. I think certain games, the harder they lean towards a more artistic aspect or a more quiet appreciation sort of aspect, like if a game is extremely atmospheric. A particular game I guess I can bring up as a very recent example is Scorn. Scorn is a game that's been on my wish list for ages, and I refuse to play that on stream because I know that I want to experience it firsthand. I would like to retain the artistic integrity of this game to to myself. But outside of those games that really have a strong identity as a kind of a blurred line between a work of art and a video game, outside of those games, I have a very hard time discerning what I should and shouldn't stream. Other streamers and other VTubers will attest to the same thing, but I often find myself picking up a game in my own time, playing it, and then cursing myself, going like, oh, that was really funny. I probably should have streamed this, or like, this could have been good content. Ooh, the most memorable. Every Sunday, I have made it a tradition. On Sunday mornings, I try to pick games that I think are games that we will play for many, many streams so that people feel like they can always come in on the same day every week, almost like tuning into Saturday morning cartoons. And so on Sundays are where I play some of the most influential games for my community because we are all living through these like 40, 50-hour journeys together. I would say that one of the most memorable games I've played, it's kind of a tie between the two, but I would have to say that it's Omori or Somnium Files. Oh, absolutely. It's some of the best practice there is. I love it because you meet a character and right off the bat you have to give them a voice.
No worries, we'll help you out, won't we, guys?
When I accept jobs for voice acting, a lot of the times there's a lot of voice direction from either the director or perhaps the writer. They may have already preconceived ideas of how this character sounds or acts, and so you're given a little bit of a character brief. But when I voice characters during my video game playthroughs, they are extremely liberating. They're very free. I get to pick the voice for the character. I get to decide what I would like to bring out about this character. I'll give him a whiny voice. So you still work here? And I can use that to practice the voices that I think that I'm really good at, hone them, make sure that they sound better than before, and just being given characters that you never in your life would have thought that you could have voiced is such great practice. Oh my goodness, we're getting into ancient host lore here. I must have been around 16 when I simply got the idea in my head, but I entered a very small competition at a local event with a couple of well-known voice actors who do anime dubbing, and they judged the event, and I got a lot of really, really helpful feedback. And so with that kind of encouragement pushing me forward, I started to do freelance voice acting in university. My initial jobs are just about some of the driest jobs you could ever imagine. A lot of them are commercials or project pitches, and I also did some ebooks. Not quite the kind of ebooks you would find on Amazon, but simply because I have very good and clear diction, then it makes sense that I could read out textbooks for those who may have vision impairments. And so I helped the school out with a bunch of these things and got a lot of experience in that field. And character voices was something I'd always wanted to get into, but I simply did not have that kind of opportunity in my life until I started VTubing. Character voicing is something that I loved, but simply only started to get into and started getting practice for when I started VTubing. I remember 2 out of the 3 voice actors that were on the panel. One of them was Kirk Thornton, and the other one was Christopher Sabat. Christopher Sabat being the person who voiced Vegeta.
So I've seen your energy-absorbing technique.
Kirk Thornton, he has a lot of very notable roles, but unfortunately, my brain only remembers him as one character because that game really, really phenomenal to me when I was in high school. Jade in Tales of the Abyss.
I care only about putting an end to what I began.
It's so wonderful getting to interact with industry professionals because they are always so open to discussing prospects and things that you should be looking out for. And I honestly think that that's the question that voice actors get the most is, I would like to become a voice actor. How do I become a voice actor? You know, I bet they get that question on the daily, the most frequent set of words they ever hear in their life. And yet every single voice actor I have ever had the pleasure of interacting with back when I was younger and seeking to become the same thing, have had nothing but just infinite patience and wisdom to give me. So I'm so thankful to all the voice actors I've had the chance to chat with. Mary was looking for voice actors on Twitter. Mary had put out a post looking for voice actors, and at the time, I was playing through Omori with my community on Sundays. And Omori was a wonderful game for showcasing a lot of my range, because on top of the silent protagonist, we had just a variety of children. So
there is Mari with her sassy little girl voice, And then there's Cal with his voice that kind of sounds like Ash Ketchum.
And so it like really flexed my range of voices that I could do. And so somebody very kind, like multiple people actually, not just one person, but multiple people very kindly submitted clips in replies going like, hey Mary, you should check them out. And then I realized that they were doing that and I felt really honored that they would suggest me. And so I put in my own reply as well. I'm like, hey Mary, I do a ton of voice acting, both on stream and on a freelance basis as well. If you ever need a voice, I'm here. It's very, very funny because I think that, so I've been receiving a lot of gigs here and there from Merryweather Productions, from various members of their staff. And most of the time, these jobs sort of arrive in the form of a small snippet. They may give me just the rough storyboard and the line that's supposed to be spoken, and then just the type of character. And so there have been multiple times, I would probably not be able to count this on one hand, but there have been multiple times where I would play a character only for myself to receive congratulations on being in the VShojo lore video. And I'm like, when? So very similarly, that job came in the same way. And through contest clues, I figured out that this was going to be for a Kali lore video. And that was an incredibly exciting opportunity. Oh my goodness. Correct me if I'm wrong, or rather, I guess nobody can correct me, but I'll do some research later and I'll back up this statement. But I believe I've been in almost every single one that have come out over the last year. There was definitely a little bit of nervousness. I think that I'm at the stage of content creation and also at the stage of familiarity with my voice that I know the voices that I can and can't put out, and I know how to make them sound, at least to my ability, the best that they can be for that particular job. The biggest source of nervousness for me from that job is simply knowing how many ears are going to be listening to that voice. And so, but you know what? It's nothing that I could stress about, because you record your lines, you send them off, and that's the end of it. Whatever you put out is carved into history forever. I would love to. One of my dreams is I would really love to provide a voice for a character in a dating sim or a visual novel, because those games I find that I gravitate towards a lot. And I would really love to provide a voice for a bachelor or bachelorette for a visual novel of some sort. The most fun. Ooh, this is tough. I love voices that get to showcase, my usual voices. There's definitely a few voices that I gravitate towards, and a lot of my casting directors know that I am good at those voices, and so they cast me in those roles. And so I really enjoy roles that kind of veer off from that regular direction. This one's kind of a worthy mention as well. But I really enjoyed being in one of Internet Historian's videos. It was a long video essay. I believe it was around almost 20 minutes. And so people would watch the entire video, and I think sometime within the last 2 minutes, I show up and I play a very sexy alien. And that's one of my favorite roles I've played so far.
We are so grateful and horny.
One of the most important things you have to remember is voice acting is acting. If you are at home practicing all your voices, expanding your range, and taking on different types of characters to voice, don't be afraid to move your body around. There is so much physical motion when it comes to voice acting, because you are trying to embody the emotion of those characters to a degree that somebody listening on the other end of those speakers can feel that emotion. Sometimes it's not quite about your voice quality and how good it sounds and not making your voice crack or squeezing your voice into something that you think is pleasant. It is much more about getting the emotions across. And so never ever forget the acting portion of voice acting, and don't be afraid to jump around or get into character or do something that isn't usually characteristic for you to do in order to take on that character that you're voice acting. Really love to make this happen sometime in the next year, but I've been looking into having a 3D model done. It would be really lovely for 3D concerts and musical performances and simply to goof around, because live 2D, as beautiful of a medium as it is, I think that it really does not communicate somebody's body language. So I'm really, really excited to be able to meet the kittens on a dimension that is beyond just what I've been presenting so far. But so much music coming your way, city pop, original songs, jazz songs, everything under the sun. If things pan out well, then every year I usually like to get a new outfit for this model, and so 2024 means another new outfit. Thank you so much for having me and giving me an opportunity to share my story and my experience with you. My name is Hiiragi Yuu, and this has been Game8 Connect.